Okay, so something a little bit different today. Welcome to my art and tarot reading space. I'm just working on the Tremendous Tuxedo Circus here. This is the Nine of Swords. So I'm just going to have a little chat whilst I'm working, and we're going to see how this gets on. How am I progressing with this deck? Well, I have pretty much completed the major cards. I have done the cups and the wands, the suits. I'm done most of the number cards, but I do need to work on the court cards. I've been finding that with each of the suits that I'm doing, it's the court cards that I struggle the most with. Just kind of like working out how I want to portray them with the characters that I've got, and trying to fit that in together. But I'm really pleased with how they're looking. I have mentioned this in the past, but I'm actually using a program called Affinity Designer to create these designs, and I wanted to show you because obviously when things are done on computer these days, there's always this confusion as to whether it is AI or not. I can safely say that this is not an AI bit of work. I have spent hours and hours developing these cards, and on the side here these are all the layers which might zoom into later, and this is quite a simple image, but a lot of detail and tweaking goes into creating all of the aspects to these designs. Affinity Designer is just a different version of, say, Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. So I've got the package that has 3 different aspects to Affinity. So you have Affinity Publisher, which is more for doing magazine layouts. I don't tend to use that. This is the designer persona, which is the equivalent to Illustrator, so vector-based drawings. And then you have the photo persona, which is more like traditional Photoshop, which is pixel-based. So the difference between the vector and the pixel, and I typically use the vector-based drawing, is that it's based on creating shapes that go to certain points, and they're crisp and clean. So when you zoom into them, it doesn't get blurry, whereas with a pixel-based image, which I don't have, but when you zoom into it, if it's not high resolution, then it will start to blur. But obviously working on tarot, that doesn't really matter because the image is quite small to begin with. The problem with being able to zoom in to so much detail, so I've just noticed there was a little kink on his moustache, is that I've deleted it and now I can't find the handle. So you also get these little handles so you can kind of change the shape of things. So I don't know if you can notice his moustache changing shape there. So it is good, but it can also be a little bit frustrating. And I've just realised that I've created an open shape, so I just need to join those. But the benefit of using this is it's meant that I've been able to keep the characters quite consistent, which is what I wanted throughout the deck. It doesn't mean that it's been quicker by any chance, because each one I do go in and tweak. And I can't really remember why I came onto this document. That's because I just wanted to tweak, because he was a little bit skew-whiff lying on the bed, and it looked a bit weird, and the shoulders are still not quite right, and I'm not sure how to rectify that. I think that needs to come down. Because there are so many layers, it can get a little bit confusing to find the bit that you want. But when I started using this, I didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, I'd used Illustrator before, but it had been a while, so I was pretty much learning it from scratch all over again. But now I feel quite confident using this program. I have my set tools that I like to use. Oh no, now his tail doesn't look right. I think that vest needs to come up as well. Oh no, it's meant to be low, isn't it? Alright, let's zoom out, see how that looks. So the idea is, because this is the 9 of Swords, so he's on a bed of nails, and I just wanted this idea of the tail kind of being over his eyes, sort of like almost hiding and shying away from the fact that these swords are hanging precariously over him. Also, since starting this card, I think my original drawing, I didn't even put a background on the original drawing, so I have just put the circus stripes there, but I think I want to have some kind of sky of doom happening in the background. So I'm probably going to find another sky that I've used before and tweak that. Let's get rid of the curtains. So what I've tried to do is, is kind of have skies for different emotions or different suits, just to sort of help to tell the story really of the card. And if you think in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, Pixie used different colours to represent different things. Now I'm going to take the reds down here, which was used in the original card over there, because that doesn't really fit with the colour scheme for the swords. The swords I've sort of gone with, I know typically swords aren't associated with winter, but for the purpose of this deck, winter made more sense for me, so hence the sort of icy cold colour palette that I've gone with. And which one do we need? So I'm going to tone that sky down, like I've done on the 2 of Swords. So typically I don't just work on one card, I will be constantly opening up other cards and reusing bits just to maintain that consistency. So the idea is I will be blending. Oh, that looks quite interesting. Quite like those clouds. But do they go on the top? Quite like that. Yeah, so just to try and keep things consistent, and as I said, even if I do copy elements, I will tweak them so it's not exactly the same. And that's one of the reasons why this is taking me so long, because typical Virgo, I'm obsessing over the details, probably a bit too much. Now I'm going to recolour that. So the nice thing about this program is you have all these options to just adjust things. Now obviously we don't want that colour. Ooh. That's quite quite dramatic. Does that say nightmares? I'm going to delete that. And yeah, you can sort of play about with stuff until you get the vibe that you're looking for. Maybe it's the saturation I need to take down. A lot of this is trial and error. And obviously as I've gone through the deck, no, that's not the one I wanted, I have obviously built up a kind of a visual language, and I have a general idea of what I'm looking for. When I started, I had no idea what I was looking for. Oh, right, I need to delete the filter I've put on there. And yeah, so this dithering backwards and forwards will go on. I mean, I've been working on this card on and off. I don't know how many hours I've already invested in this card. Brightness and contrast. No, I think it's that one I want. Oh yes, I think that's it. Oh wow, yes, that's very menacing. I think that's doing it for me. And now the consideration is, do I want to have curtains? Because a lot of this happens in the big top or just outside the big top. And then the question is, what type of curtains am I going to go for? Because I do have these different types of circus curtains. I might go, I think I've already got that one open. Yes, so I'm going to use those curtains. And then, yeah, you can group your layers as well, because obviously the more layers you add, this gets very blocked up. And so you can kind of group things to create a bit more space. Now, the question is, I think they need to go further apart. You'll also notice, where's that gone? That I've added a viewfinder here. And that's simply because this template has like the bleed area and the safe area. So my viewfinder, I'm currently on the safe area. No, I think the bleed area. But the safe space is all the details that must be in the card, and I don't want the potential of them cropping. So then I can sort of look through and see what it's likely to look like. But the full design goes right to the edges there, and you know, some of that gets lost in the printing process. I'm going to bring that back and move these out a little bit. Quite like it there. Now obviously if you were painting or drawing this, you don't have this safety net. You just have to go for it, which, you know, I think I quite like. And if I do another deck, I think I would quite like to be a bit more hands-on, because then it forces me to commit to things rather than this endless tweaking, which I've sort of found myself in. However, I think I'm going to learn a lot doing it this way, and I'm still going to need the computer to put all the designs on anyway, so it's still a worthwhile process. So I think I want the curtains to frame the swords here. I think there is a tool where I can distribute these evenly, but sometimes I just like to do things by eye. it's annoying really, because the Sydney, poor Sydney, he's having a right nightmare on a bed of nails with these swords dangling above him. I'd quite like him to be a bit bigger, but I'm a bit constrained by the dimension of the card, and so I don't know if I can make him bigger or not at the moment. Potentially make the bed higher and fill this space up a bit more, so I think I'm going to try that. So I'm going to make, I'm going to call it bed group. Oh, something else I was going to say actually about the pros and cons of making a deck on the computer. I think if you were doing a collage deck, unless you were physically doing a collage by finding the pictures, cutting them out and sticking them down, I think most people probably use a program like this. And so, you know, I can move anything and place it anywhere. And so those, you know, wonderful collage decks that are on the market at the moment, I suspect they're doing a similar thing. So they have all the different images that they want to add in the collage, and they're probably using the computer to sort of look at the composition and think about where things are going to be placed, which is something I would definitely be doing. Now the question is this going to look too blocky? I think it probably is. So I'm going to duplicate the bed. I'm going to lock that one, and then this is the one I'm going to adjust. So that's another nice thing about working on the computer, is that you can copy something and just sort of tinker with it. See what it looks like. Oh, I think that's going to be a bit too much unless I put some kind of texture on it. So there's a lot of sitting back and staring at the screen and thinking. I'm going to try some texture on this. So where do I find those? What would be an interesting texture? Something nightmarish, I suspect. Don't like any of those. Ooh, looks dark and ominous. So the annoying thing about these textures is I don't think you can kind of move them about or change them, which would be really great if you could. No, not loving that. Don't know, I think I'm going to come back to that. Anyway, I've got some thinking to do. I hope that was interesting to see how I play about with the design of the cards and a little bit more about my process for this deck. Comment below if you have any questions, and thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.